This is Andrea from Doctors of Running, and today I'm here to talk about my favorite shoes of 2024. This year has been kind of a different year of training and racing for me than the past few years, where I've really been focused on marathon training and racing. This year, I was supposed to race the Osaka Marathon at the end of February, so I spent the first 2 months of the year training through the long, cold Connecticut winter in preparation for that race. And then unfortunately got COVID 2 weeks before the race and had to cancel the trip. That was a big bummer. I was really excited to race a marathon in Mizuno's Wave Rebellion Pro 2. That racing shoe out of any feels the most designed for the way I land as a midfoot striker. So I'm really looking forward to getting a chance to race in that shoe, or actually version 3, which I just got last week. But we won't talk about that right now. We'll talk about 2024 shoes. So after I recovered from COVID, took a little bit of a break, I knew that I was going to focus on shorter races this year. And most of my races were 5Ks. I did a couple of road miles and I did a couple 7-mile races. So my training has been a lot different than the past few years. The shoes that I liked have been different, particularly for racing. So let's get into my picks for the year. So we'll start with daily trainers. And all of you know that my hands down favorite shoe from last year was Hyperion Max 1. And this year, Brooks kind of differentiated their line by updating Hyperion Max 2 and making it really more of a max stack shoe. And then Hyperion 2 kind of took over what Hyperion Max was. So Hyperion 2 is, without question, my favorite daily trainer of the year. Why? Because it's basically Hyperion Max 1 with a better upper and a slightly reduced forefoot rocker. So it's a great neutral daily trainer that I use for literally everything. I can take it for an easy recovery run. I can take it on my longer, easy runs. I use it for workouts. There's really nothing that I wouldn't use this shoe for besides racing. It's got DNA Flash midsole, same as Hyperion Max 1. Stack height is 34 in the heel, 26 in the forefoot for an 8mm drop. Like Hyperion Max 1, it doesn't really feel like an 8mm drop. Brooks did a really good job with this heel bevel to make midfoot landings. I land at my lateral midfoot, feel really comfortable and natural. I never felt like the heel was getting in the way of my landings, whether I was running super easy or trying to run fast. And I've used this shoe for like 800 pace repeats. And it feels awesome running that fast in it. And it feels just as awesome running 9-minute pace in this shoe. So really great design on Brooks' part. I also really like the improvement they made to the upper. The material is softer, and while I didn't have any real issues with Hyperion Max 1, there were definitely a couple points like over the dorsum of my forefoot that sometimes I'd get a little pressure points, and that's totally gone in Hyperion 2. So if you're like me and you really loved Hyperion Max 1, Hyperion 2 is really the replacement for it. Hyperion Max 2 is really a different shoe, higher stack height, and I'll talk about it in a minute. So what's my runner-up for Daily Trainer of the Year? Asics Nova Blast 5. I loved Nova Blast 4. It was my top pick for Daily Trainer last year, and Asics really did a great job of improving on this shoe. The two big improvements Asics made: one, they stiffened up the toe box a little bit. Nova Blast 4, I really couldn't run fast in because when I was running faster, I kind of felt like my toes were pushing out of the upper. They added some reinforcement to the mesh in version 5, and I don't have that feeling at all. My forefoot feels a lot more stable in version 5. The other thing that they really improved is the midsole in the shoe is bouncier and it's not as soft. So it makes it more comfortable for running faster than version 4. So this is a lot more versatile shoe for me. Version 4 I could really only use for like easy runs. I could do strides in it, but I really didn't love how it felt. But this shoe, like when I tested it, I think when I got it, I used it for like 6 out of my 7 runs that week, which means recovery runs, strides. I used it for like an up-tempo workout. I used it for a long run. It can do everything. So this is a really nice choice. I would say if you liked Nova Blast 4 but wanted it to be a little bit firmer and bouncier, or if you, like me, found that the toe box was just a little bit too stretchy when running fast. So, nice update from ASICS. Looking forward to putting more miles on this shoe. So let's move on to stable neutral trainers. Here at DOR, we rate either our favorite stability shoes or our favorite stable neutral shoes. Stability shoes don't really work for me. I tend to need more stability laterally than medially. So my number one stable neutral trainer of the year was a surprise to me, and it's probably a surprise to you guys too. It's Puma Magmax Nitro. I love this shoe. You know, when it showed up, I was like, what is this? This shoe has a 49 millimeter stack height in the heel. Oh, 47 in the heel, 39 in the forefoot. That's massive. I was like, I don't know about this. But I took it out on like 5 mile recovery run and just immediately it clicked and I loved it. The fit is really nice. It's got this nice like sock-like upper where it just like wraps around your foot, but it doesn't feel loose like some sock-like uppers can. The tongue is really well integrated with the upper. Like I just put on and went. Like I didn't have to fuss with the laces or anything. But the thing that I really love about this shoe and why it's my number one stable neutral shoe is the forefoot is really stable. You can see how much forefoot sole flare there is laterally and medially, but it's a little more pronounced laterally. And for people like me who tend to land too far lateral, this kind of acts as a bumper to keep you from going too far lateral. So I found that this shoe was actually perfect for the way that I land. And if you read our review of the shoe, Matt and I had very different experiences in it. He lands at his heel, I land at my midfoot. He found the heel to be a little too soft, but since I don't land there, I didn't really notice it at all. But this shoe, particularly because of the forefoot geometry, it works really well for me. Other features that make it a great stable neutral shoe: really wide base, high amount of outsole rubber coverage, and that provides some additional longitudinal bending stiffness. Really well-designed rocker. I liked the heel bevel. Again, Matt didn't, and that's where differences in our mechanics come in. And then like a pretty gradual forefoot rocker. It's not too much. It never felt aggressive. It never felt like it was pushing me into push off sooner than I wanted to. It's just a really nice shoe. Like, I know that I can throw this shoe on. My feet are going to be perfectly comfortable. I can run slow in it, but I can also take it for just like a normal, easy run. Not every max stack shoe can do that. So Puma really hit it out of the park with this one. And I'll definitely keep using it for my recovery runs and easy runs when I just need more underfoot protection. So then my runner up for stable neutral shoe is Brooks Hyperion Max 2. So again, if I had to choose between Hyperion 2 and Hyperion Max 2 just as like overall favorite, hands down it's Hyperion 2. It's pretty much the same as Hyperion Max 1, same stack height, same foam, just slightly different forefoot rocker and upper material. But Hyperion Max 2 is without question the more stable neutral shoe because of its geometry. And I like this shoe for like medium long easy runs. I can do pickups in it, but I really don't like doing workouts in it. It's just a little too clunky for me for running faster. But what makes this shoe so stable neutral? Again, we've got a ton of sole flare. Got some in the rear foot, but definitely some in the forefoot. Got a nice wide base, that nice central groove, which kind of helps keep things centered no matter where you land. The upper fits really securely, really well done rear foot, secures your heel without creating any pressure. Like this is a nice amount of padding without overdoing it. I liked that they redesigned the tongue compared to Hyperion Max 1. This tongue design just stays in place and doesn't really like fold over or get in the way like the tongue of Hyperion Max 1 did. And again, they updated the laces, much better grip. The rocker profile's pretty pronounced. Have a small heel bevel, but again, it was enough that I didn't really think about the heel at all when I was running. But a pretty aggressive forefoot rocker definitely keeps things rolling. When I run in this shoe, it just kind of feels like I can't feel the ground. It helps me keep my feet turning over. And it's not like super fast, but it's just nice for getting the miles in. And particularly like maybe when I'm a little bit tired and just need that little bit of extra stability that the Sole Flare provides, this is a really nice shoe to reach for. But Brooks has definitely differentiated it from version 1. So just keep that in mind. Again, if you loved Hyperion Max 1, this is not really the right shoe for you. Hyperion 2 is. So let's move on to the long run shoe category. And this is the shoe that I have the most miles on out of any shoe of 2024. And it is Mizuno Wave Rebellion Flash 2. I have over 300 miles on it. You can see it's pretty disgusting looking because we had a lot of rain this year. But this shoe is amazing. One, I have never run in a trainer that felt so designed for my mechanics as a midfoot striker. And you can see, got pretty aggressive heel bevel. It's not as aggressive as Wave Rebellion Pro 2, but still pretty significant. And it just, when I land at my lateral midfoot, it just feels like it's designed exactly for that landing pattern. And there's enough of a flat section here where I feel like I actually have time to progress from landing at my midfoot to push off. A lot of shoes have such an early forefoot rocker that if I land at my midfoot, it's like I land and like I'm immediately just pushed into push off. The New Balance Balos was a shoe like that. I just didn't like that, how quickly I was rolled into push off. But this shoe, I mean, it's not a natural shoe by any means. High stack, heavily rockered, but it feels natural to me. When I run in it, my calves feel like they're doing less work. My legs feel better after I run in it. So again, I love this shoe. I'm glad I have a backup pair because eventually this pair is going to wear out, but at 300 miles, it's still going strong. The outsole, you can see there's really only a little bit of wear here where I land, and then a little bit where I push off at the toes, but everything else looks pretty good. Mizuno does such a great job with their outsole material. This shoe grips the road fantastically. In Connecticut, they throw down all this sand during the winter for traction, and I really don't have any issues on the sand on the roads in this shoe. What else do I like about this shoe? Nice forefoot rocker. I use this shoe for long runs, for workouts, for easy runs. Like, I would go on a trip and just bring this shoe and be perfectly happy. But since we're in the long run category, I'll talk about it as long run shoe. Basically, any long run I had this year that I wasn't testing a shoe in, I use this shoe for. And that's how you get 300 miles in a year. So most of my long runs this year have been like 10 to 16 miles. And I just know I'm going to throw on the shoe. It's going to be comfortable. It's going to help me click away the miles and, give me a little bit of boost, but it's not like an extremely bouncy super shoe that I don't need to be doing all of my long runs in. So if you're a midfoot striker, this shoe I would highly recommend. People who land further back, some people do just fine with it, but I think it really depends on your individual mechanics. So great value. Again, I'm going to keep running in it. I'll let you guys know how many miles I get on it before I just finally decide to retire it, but number one shoe of the year, unquestionably. So my runner-up long run shoe is a surprise to me, probably also a surprise to you. It's the Hoka Cielo X1. So I love the way that Hoka shoes feel, but unfortunately the sidewalls in most Hokas just kill my feet. I get blisters and hot spots. So there are a lot of Hokas I just can't run in. This shoe does not have that problem. My feet are so comfortable in this shoe. It's got a wider toe box than a lot of Hokas, more volume in the midfoot. The upper just really fits really comfortably. This knit material has a lot of structure just from like the way they did the ribbing here and the overlays. So it really just stays away from your foot, but it still provides plenty of security. So I used the shoe for several long runs preparing for Osaka. And then later in the year, I used it for a few like long runs or even workouts, just preparing for my shorter races. But the one workout that makes it the runner up for my favorite long run shoe is one day in January. It was like 15 degrees out with 30-mile-per-hour winds, and I had a 20-mile workout to do. There was no way I was going outside. So I used this on the treadmill for 20 miles. My feet were perfectly comfortable, no hot spots, nothing got sore, legs felt great. So a shoe that you can do 20 miles on the treadmill in is a great long run shoe. This is a very bouncy shoe. It's very soft, but it's not so soft that I don't like it, because I really don't like very compliant shoes, but it's got enough cushion and enough responsiveness that it works well for me. I wouldn't use it just for like a straight easy run, but it's great for like a marathon pace workout. Like that treadmill workout I did, I think was like 8 miles easy, 10 miles at marathon pace, 2 miles easy. It can also pick up the pace pretty well. I've used it for workouts at like 5K to mile pace, and surprisingly, it feels really good. And I think that's because of like the pretty extreme forefoot rocker here. One thing to be aware of is this huge lateral cutout. Some people, I know it bothered David, he felt like it was a little unstable laterally, especially on crowned roads. I never really experienced that, and I have issues with lateral ankle stability because I've sprained my ankles so much, but it didn't really bother me at all in this shoe. Interestingly, when I tested Hoka Mach X2, I did have an issue with the similar cutout here, but this one didn't really bother me. So if you've heard that this shoe is unstable laterally, yes, it may be that way for some people, but might not be for you. It didn't bother me. So big shout out to Hoka for designing this shoe. I'm definitely a big fan. So let's move on to the workout shoe category. And I've already talked about my favorite shoe for this category, Brooks Hyperion 2. Again, it can do everything, like any pace, sprints, mile pace, 5K pace, marathon pace, easy. It does everything. It's like my one shoe. When I went to Spain a couple months ago, this was the shoe that I brought with me because I knew I could do everything in it. So if you loved Hyperion Max 1, liked its versatility, this is the replacement for it. And another shoe that I've already talked about in the plated non-racing category, without question, Mizuno Wave Rebellion Flash 2. Honestly, I couldn't think of another plated shoe that I even like enjoyed testing this year compared to this shoe. So number one plated non-racing shoe for me. And then let's move on to the racing category. Now, this year was a little different just because of the races that I did. So I think if I had run Osaka, Wave Rebellion Pro 2 would have been my favorite shoe because it felt so good on all of my training runs, especially at marathon pace. But I didn't get to race it, so I can't really make it my number one racing shoe. The shoes that I raced the most in this year were Vaporfly 3. I used that for several 5Ks and one of the 7-milers I did. And then on Cloud Boom Echo 3, which I used for a couple of road miles and a bunch of 5Ks and the Big 7. But none of those shoes are 2024 shoes. And close to the end of the fall, I got a new shoe that had been out for a while this year. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I had gotten this in the spring because I think it would have been like my number one racer of the year. So I'm excited to use it in a race next year. And that's actually why I'm giving it my number one racing shoe of the year. It's the On Cloud Boom Strike. Those who listen to the pod know that my favorite all-time racing shoe has been the Nike Alphafly 1, but it's like impossible to find now. So I've kind of been on a quest to reproduce that like 4-foot pop feeling that the AirPods give. And I thought that On Cloud Boom Echo 3 was close, but the pop wasn't as pronounced. but this shoe definitely comes the closest to how Alpha Fly One feels for me. I used it in like a couple workouts before my last 5K of the year. I was like, oh, I wonder if I should use it for this 5K, but I just didn't want to take the risk for the last race of the year. But I've done more workouts in it since, and I cannot wait to use it in like a 5K or a 10K next year. So, what's great about it? Well, let's take this out because this is really the feature that makes it special. So, there's this bounce board, which is essentially the sock liner, but you can see how thick it is. And you can see it's got this really thick forefoot area of Helion HF foam, which is their supercritical foam. So this is kind of what gives it the AirPod feeling that Alpha Fly One has. I don't know if I can show it to you in the video, but there you go. You can see that the carbon plate is right there. So the plate is really close to your foot. The only thing in between is this really thick sock liner. So you get that like bounce feeling, but a very firm snap from the plate being so close to your foot. And that's what makes it most similar to Alpha Fly One for me. The geometry of the shoe, I mean, you look at it and it doesn't look like all that remarkable. The heel bevel really isn't all that extreme. Yes, there's a pretty significant forefoot rocker. There's some toe spring, but really the magic is in this sock liner combined with how close the carbon plate is to your foot. And it has that pop. And when I was doing workouts in it, it felt like Alpha Fly One in that I was like 5 or 10 seconds faster than I would have been in like other super shoes. So I can't wait to race this shoe next year. I'll keep you guys updated on how it is. But if you're like me, you love Alpha Fly One, can't find your size in it anymore, try this shoe for sure because it's the closest for sure. Last, when we did our audio version of our favorite shoes, we just talked briefly about our company of the year, and hands down, it's got to go to Mizuno. You know, most runners land on their rear foot. So the small number of us who land at our midfoot or forefoot, a lot of shoes just aren't designed for us. And I feel like Wave Rebellion Flash 2 and Wave Rebellion Pro 2 are really designed for people who land further forward. And it was a game changer for me this year to run in a shoe that just felt like it was designed for me rather than me hoping that a shoe designed for rear foot strikers would work well for me. And it was really interesting having their R&D people come on the pod this summer. Definitely check that episode out if you guys haven't listened. They talked about how they came up with the forefoot angle or the foot angle in the shoe for the Flash and the Pro, and how they decided like how to design the bevel and the stack height. It's really interesting to hear them talk about the research they did leading up to these shoes being released. So good job, Mizuno. Thank you for making shoes that feel like they're made for me. And I've done one run in Wave Rebellion Pro 3, and it is a very good update on Pro 2, but I've got to get some more miles on it before I can tell you guys more about it. So anyway, thanks for listening. As always, leave a comment below. Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? Have any questions for me? Also want to give a shout out to Scratch Labs for sponsoring the pod. I've been a fan of their products for years, and they just keep coming out with great new stuff. You can use our discount code, Doctors of Running. I think it's Doctors of Running 2024, but look at it. It'll be in the show notes down below. And thanks for listening. Happy New Year, and I'll see you guys in 2025.